This is going to be a kind of a tip, a little bit off the wall, but it's something, you know, I've been real fortunate, and I've just been able to set up a lot of bows over the years. And I mean, you set up enough and you just learn little things that help. And it's going to seem trivial to some, but I think you're going to scratch your head and say, man, that does work. With so many aluminum parts on bows and stuff today, you have steel screws that rust, and then you have aluminum parts. Well, whenever you seize those two metals together, a lot of times they won't tight down. And have you ever worked on a site that it's just like you pressure, pepper, and all of a sudden it just pops, you know, it just pops off, or a screw will seize up because it's a steel screw against an aluminum housing, like on your sight or on this quiver or whatever, or on your rest. You got a steel screw, which you need it to be hard, but you want the aluminum for the lightweightness of it. So what I've come up with, and it seems to work really well, it does two things. Is you just take a little bit of bow wax. I'm a bow wax fanatic, I guess you could say. I use it for chapstick too, I guess. But you take a little bit of bow wax, and right on the shoulder of the bolt, you put some around there. Not necessarily lubrication on the threads, but lubrication on the shoulder, so that when it touches down on the aluminum countersunk, there's a little bit of lubrication there, and it works as like anti-seize, so that you're able to tighten the bolt down without it grabbing. Because anytime you've ever tightened a lot of steel bolts onto aluminum, it goes pop, 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 pop. Whereas this has a smooth transition, it tightens down. You can use it on limb bolts anytime where it's a steel bolt going into aluminum housing or aluminum washer. It tightens down better, and then there's just a little bit of a lubrication there that will displace water that tries to get in there. If you hunt in a rain and then you go to try to take your quiver off or adjust your rest, that will seize up in there once it gets a little moisture on top of being tight. So you can get it tighter, it won't move, and then also when you go to move it, it won't pop, 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 pop. It just smoothly undoes. And it stays tight because the threads don't have any of the lubrication on it, just the bolts do it. So whether it's a bolt on your rest, on the shoulders, or where you're bolting it to the bow, put you a little bit of wax just on that shoulder, and things tighten down much better, and they stay tight. And then when it does come time to remove it in 2 or 3 years, it pops right off, and it keeps it from rusting shut.